Hey everyone, it's Pastor Colin with your daily word. As we continue in this series and get close to wrapping it up, we're asking a question this week. When has God surprised us? And as I reflected on this question, it was actually kind of hard for me to determine one time in which God surprised me. As I thought about it, I kind of mark these seasons of my life in becoming a Christian and continuing to be one and finding new seasons of life. That's how God encounters me, typically because it's God. God surprises me and guides me in places that I wouldn't pick for myself, and that's good. It's good for me that God would do that because I don't always know the best way. And in my own experience, on my own journey as a Christian, I found that God has continued to surprise me. But one season of my life in particular that I think God surprised me the most, especially as I look back now being a pastor in a church, is a season of my life where I had internally given up on being a Christian. I had at least kind of come to the conclusion that I could kind of nominally be a Christian and maybe follow Jesus as a good moral teacher, but didn't really find any value in being religious anymore. This was a time when I was actually studying abroad for a semester in college, my junior year of college, and during this season I had a lot of pain and difficulty, and was also kind of searching, vocationally what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I thought about going into academia, but I also had at one point considered going to seminary to be a pastor. I had felt a call to ministry, but that had kind of faded away because of some things that had happened in my life. And in a moment that I can only describe as an impression, a moment where I felt some clarity, a moment where I felt drawn back to something familiar, I found that God was again calling me. I was part of a Bible study, and Bible study was kind of my last ditch effort to really reclaim my faith if there was any left, with some other students at Oxford, and the students we were reading in the Gospel of Matthew and reading Jesus' calling of the disciples. And I say this often because it's so true in my own life that in that moment I felt that not only was God calling the disciples through Jesus Christ in the Gospel of Matthew, but that he was also calling me. That's how God surprised me in that moment and continues to surprise me, is to confront me with this mystery that though we're distant from God's revelation in Jesus and the person of Jesus, we are drawn near to him through it. And it reminds me of this quote that I want to share with you this morning that I think really encapsulates how I think God surprises me and generally surprises humanity in an encounter. Callistus Ware is an Orthodox priest, and he says this: "We see that it is not the task of Christianity to provide easy answers to every question, but to make us progressively aware of a mystery. God is not so much the object of our knowledge as the cause of our wonder." And that's the prayer I have for myself and for you today and for everyone during this series, is that God would continue to draw us to wonder, not to self-understand or to understand the world perfectly, and certainly not to understand God perfectly, but to draw us into a position of wonder, that we may be surprised by what God calls us to do, even in the midst of difficulty and trial. God be with you this week.